Ladies and gentlemen, the first time I stood at this podium was in May 1992 as the Foreign Minister of a newly independent Bosnia and Herzegovina. At that time, I recounted the unspeakable atrocities that were unfolding in my country. I also warned that if not stopped, such atrocities would only get worse. In fact, I merely asked that Bosnia and Herzegovina be accorded the right to defend itself, the right guaranteed by the United Nations Charter. We know what happened since. Some in the international community insisted on maintaining the arms embargo imposed by the United Nations Security Council in 1991, thus adding to the obviously overwhelming military advantage of Milosevic's regime that was bent on destroying Bosnia and Herzegovina and its people. They justified this course by claiming that lifting of the arms embargo meant adding oil to the fire. So the result was that the fire was quelled by the blood of innocent. The intent of the perpetrators of this genocide was to forever destroy the unique multi-ethnic fabric of Bosnia and Herzegovina through mass slaughter, rapes, torture, abuse, expulsion, and plunder. Ladies and gentlemen, all this culminated in Srebrenica in July 1995. The International Court of Justice, the court of this institution, of this organization, in its judgment of February 26, 2007, ruled, I quote, "The Bosnian Serbs devised and implemented a plan to execute as many as possible of the military-aged Bosnian Muslim men present in the enclave, that the acts committed at Srebrenica were committed with specific intent to destroy, in part, the group of the Muslims of Bosnia and Herzegovina as such, and accordingly, that these were acts of genocide committed by members of the Army of Republika Srpska in and around Srebrenica on the 13th of July." End quote. Ladies and gentlemen, through its acts and omissions, the United Nations, by its own admission, bears a part of responsibility for the crimes committed at Srebrenica. In fact, the UN Secretary General's report on Srebrenica from 2000 unequivocally states, and I quote, "Through error, misjudgment, and inability to recognize the scope of the evil confronting us, we failed to do our part to help save the people of Srebrenica from the Serb campaign of mass murder. Srebrenica crystallized a truth understood and too late by the United Nations and the world at large, that Bosnia was as much a moral cause as a military conflict. The tragedy of Srebrenica will haunt our history forever. We do not want, ladies and gentlemen, the United Nations to be haunted. We want the United Nations to right the wrongs. In fact, international law mandates that this must be done. The International Law Commission's articles on state responsibility, adopted in this Assembly's Resolution 83 of 12 December 2001, mandate that no state shall recognize as lawful a situation created by a serious breach of a peremptory norm of general international law, which clearly includes the crime of genocide and the crime against humanity, nor render aid or assistance in maintaining that situation. Ladies and gentlemen, if these principles had been applied, would the institutions identified by the International Court of Justice as perpetrators of genocide still exist? Would vast portions of a country remain ethnically clean? Would over 1 million of refugees and displaced persons remain outside their homes? In short, do these principles allow the arrest of Silajdzic and the simultaneous preservation of the results of this project? We cannot bring back the dead, but we can give dignity and justice to the survivors. What we say today is not aimed at the past, but at the future, and not only for Bosnia and Herzegovina. We owe it not only to the victims and survivors, but to the humanity as a whole. The message to the would-be perpetrators of crimes in the name of a twisted ideology should be crystal clear. Do not even think about it. Your terror will not pay off. The 1995 Dayton Peace Agreement ended the aggression, stopped the genocide, and brought peace. These were its major accomplishments. The Dayton Peace Agreement, however, was also intended to revert the effects of genocide and ethnic cleansing. It had all the necessary elements to do so. It is not the implementation of the Dayton Agreement, but the violation of its core principles that led to this result. It would be a grave mistake to recognize this result as lawful and legitimate. It is the responsibility of this organization to make it right, just as we should not have been forced to smuggle arms into our own country to defend ourselves. We should not be forced now to smuggle basic human rights, justice, and democracy into Bosnia and Herzegovina. Can we celebrate the 60th anniversary of the adoption of the Genocide Convention if the first and only judgment of the International Court of Justice on the crime of genocide remains in the archives of that court? Ladies and gentlemen, now is the time to right these wrongs. We are about to start work on the new constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the outcome of that process will answer many of these questions. To those who now seek to legitimize the systemic violations of the Dayton Agreement, we all must say, make no mistake, genocide will not be rewarded. This is the responsibility of this organization, because rewarding the genocide would send a dangerous message throughout the world and would surely undermine the chances of peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the region. Seekers of justice are not the enemies of peace. They are the guardians of peace. And this is what this statement is all about. Certainly there are those in Bosnia and Herzegovina who would not agree with this. But surely they are not the victims of genocide. Dear friends, we have not forgotten the help we received from many of you represented here today. Bosnia and Herzegovina still needs your help in this regard, and we hope we can work together in order to ensure permanent peace and stability in my country, the region, and the world. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants, je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Thank you very much for your attention.
أشكركم على حسن الاستماع.
I thank you for listening and for your attention.